When you think of some of the top fantasy football running backs over the past few years, you think Adrian Peterson, Maurice Jones-Drew, Chris Johnson. Today we're counting down the top 3 fantasy running backs in 2012, and this year, none of those 3 running backs makes it on the list.
Now, can we reasonably expect LeSean McCoy to score touchdowns in 13 different games, average more than 5 yards a touch, and only lose 1 fumble again like he did last season? Hey, it might be asking a lot, but the change in the Eagles' offense to being more McCoy and run-centric shows that the Eagles are willing to change things up a little bit and not be that passing team they were for so many years. And he's got a nice new shiny contract to prove that they are thinking he's a big piece of that team. Now, McCoy's numbers might take a slight dip in 2012, but it's fair to say he's a top 3 fantasy back for the foreseeable future.
Even though the NFL has turned into a passing league, which increases the value of quarterbacks in fantasy football, you can't ignore the best running backs in the game, and you can't go wrong with Ray Rice, who led all running backs last year in fantasy points. In this season, there's no Ricky Williams back there. There is no proven backup to take away carries from the dual threat back. Ray Rice is a great receiver. He was second among running backs in receiving yards and receptions. He had 12 touchdowns last season too, which is a huge plus to fantasy owners who are waiting for Rice to finally get to double digits in touchdowns, but we don't know if he'll be able to do that again. Ray Rice is clearly the best player on the Ravens offense. He gets almost 400 touches a year. You know they're going to give him the rock, and he's about as reliable as you can get when you're looking for a running back in fantasy football. Expect Ray Rice to go off the board in the top 5 in your fantasy drafts.
Fresh off a brand new deal inked this offseason and a dominant showing in the team's first ever postseason appearance, Arian Foster, Pro Football Weekly's #1 ranked fantasy running back, has plenty of momentum to build on heading into 2012. Foster joined elite company last year, becoming only the 6th back in NFL history to pile up 1,000 yards rushing and 600 yards receiving in consecutive seasons. The only real question is, can Foster stay healthy? He's missed time in each of the past 2 seasons. And will they have the same effectiveness in run blocking up front with 2 new starters on the right side of the offensive line? On top of that, perhaps the best backup in football is Ben Tate, and he is talented and hungry to get more opportunities. If I'm drafting first later this summer, Arian Foster is exactly the type of player I want to build my team around. He's extremely hungry and will be out to prove he's worth not only the Texans' investment, but the investment of fantasy owners, many of whom took him off the board with the first pick.
The running backs you draft this summer could make or break your entire fantasy football season. To make sure you're up to date on the best fantasy football rankings, pick up a copy of Pro Football Weekly's Fantasy Preview Guide at pfwstore.com, or to see the rankings for every position, head over to profootballweekly.com.